Well, I'm talking with Clare Barber, MHK, and we're really dealing with the promenade and all that's going on. You're on the various committees about this, and for this one, which one do we address you for this one?
So this is the promenade element of the Environment and Infrastructure Scrutiny Committee.
Right, so many things going on here. I mean, where do we begin? You've had Mr. Baker, and I think in his first few days in the position, he had to come and give you some evidence.
That's right. We'd scheduled to have Ray Harmer in, but obviously there was the change in minister. We decided to go ahead actually because Tim Baker has been involved throughout. So although he's now the minister and he was the member, but he was the member for highways. So actually that works well. So he was able to come in and talk to us. We also spoke to Treasury and to DFE, and we were trying to look at the different elements of what's changed, why that's changed, and realistically what's going to happen next.
And of course it's your constituency as well, so that affects all those hotels, what's going on there. The one thing that we keep coming back to is horse trams. It seems people have an absolute Marmite thing about this. Some want them, some don't, but the will of Tynwald was they must be seen to go all the way along.
Yeah.
That now, of course, isn't happening until next year. Mm-hmm. Are you confident? And tell me, because there's a bit there about funding, isn't there?
Yeah, so one of the things that came out of the evidence session that gave some cause for concern is that hasn't been a business case for that second part, and there's no contract in place. So although there's a commitment, very clear commitment from Minister Baker, what we don't have at the minute is a contractor up and ready to go. And there'll obviously be a period of time to go out, get that tender out, actually look and make sure someone can fit it into their schedules.
So what is that going to mean, though? At the end of the day, what is going to happen on the promenade?
So hopefully, because they, by their own admission, the time frames are incredibly tight on this. By 31st of March, they'll be at a position where the majority of the work is done. And then we've put a report together, but we've suggested that actually where they've tarmacked the Loch Promenade end at the minute to allow the cars and vehicles to travel over that, they're talking about lifting that tarmac again and making it look pretty with some shrubbery. Now we're saying, actually, is there any need to lift that tarmac again? That's just another element that could be perhaps cut out. There'd be a cost saving, a time saving. So that's one of the things that we've challenged. We've also asked where the additional resource is going to come from within the department. Because
they have to go back to somebody for more money, will they?
Ultimately, they're going to have to come back for more money.
And that was the thing that came out, really. There's not enough, as it stands, to do that anyway now.
Yeah, they don't know exactly what the cost will be by the end of this, because it depends on the penalties, anything else. There's a large number of bits that's still in discussion with the contractors. But there will be almost certainly, from what we're hearing, there's going to be a need for additional money to do that extra part. But there's also going to be a displacement of resources, because the DOI have now taken on quite a number of elements of the project.
I hear the side roads and everything, they've taken that back now.
The pedestrian crossings, that's all going to now be done by DOI. Now,
and it should be done by the contractor.
Which was in the original contract.
Yes.
Now, there'll be an element of saving in the contract, but ultimately they're going to need people, and they're going to need those people to be available to do that. And those people should probably have been doing something else. So we want to understand a little bit more from the department, and we haven't been able to tease that information out yet. Where are you getting the number of people who will be needed to do those pieces of work? So that's quite significant. And then the deferral will be on the build outs that they're having for the road, the horse tram element, the single track element running along the side of the promenade, and also on the roundels. So they're actually going to dig up again the roundels at the bottom of Broadway.
They don't want to be called roundels, I keep hearing. I think they are roundels. But
is that like Cadbury's roundel?
They don't like that word, apparently. But
right, that's actually in the contract.
Oh, it is a roundel. It's a roundel then. Because that means basically it's not raised, isn't it? It's just more patterned.
Yeah, but it's done with
bricks and things.
Slate, so it's a specific brickwork, the way they do it, but they also have to lay a base work for it. Now, they're not going to do that. It's much quicker to just put some concrete in and just get on with it for now. It's fine. But obviously there's going to be disruption when that's lifted again during the winter season. And then we must also remember we've also at some point got the walkway still to happen, because that's not in any of these plans, and the promenade seawall.
Hang on, read what? The walkway's not in there?
The walkway on the promenade side was never included in these plans. That's a separate piece of work.
Right.
So the walkway and the seawall are separate
Seawall's
pieces.
got planning though, hasn't it now?
It has got planning, but all of those elements will need to be costed, they'll need to come to Timward, and then they'll need to be done, and there will be disruption. And my concern is it's just going to become a never-ending cycle, and that's something the committee are very much alert to, because the knock-on effect is that we're seeing the businesses on the promenade, both the retail sector, you've got the hospitality sector and accommodation sector really struggling.
Well, let's put your Douglas's hat on for this. I mean, you and Chris Robert Shaw, all those hoteliers have just had one thing after another, and of course then this whole thing going one way, because at the time no one was going back to work, and now everyone's back at work. It's all, and people don't know where they're coming or going. Have you what sort of words of comfort can you give anybody at the minute? Because these people have been hurting now for some time.
So we've had a long sort of conversation with a number of hoteliers, and that actually resulted last week in a meeting with accommodation providers across the island, because actually there's two very distinct elements. So the accommodation providers generally were affected by Flybe, the collapse of Flybe. The ones who are based along or just off the promenade were affected by the promenade. And then you've got COVID-19, which has affected everyone. So actually all of the accommodation providers are very much, they were the first affected by COVID, and they'll be the last ones to recover, because the borders are our first and our last piece of the jigsaw, I suppose. So we're very alert that this is bigger than just the promenade. But for those on the promenade, there's an additional element, because actually even trying to capitalise on the staycation market is a challenge when you're in an inaccessible area at the moment. And then that's also affecting restaurants, cafes, because once you drive along, you try and find somewhere to park, stop the car, you can't, so you do a couple of circuits and you give up and go home, and they're getting feedback from customers. That's what's happening. What
was your view about the parking on the walkway? Because I mean that was on, then it was off, put back on for about 2 days, and another U-turn on that one, and now it doesn't seem to be on anywhere likely to come back, and of course the car park's now charging again, and that sort of thing.
And this is what we really wanted DOI. We pushed very hard in the committee, and we were reassured they were going to look at different options. One of the options being actually some of the car parks operated by Douglas Council are owned by DOI, so there is an opportunity.
I'm hearing
DOI
whispers they're going to do something.
To actually look to waive the charge.
Yeah, have you heard that?
That was certainly told to us within the committee. It's something that was supposed to be coming back on, but at the minute nothing's happening. No. And in the interim, those businesses are being affected by that. So, you know, I totally understand the idea that we'd love a promenade with no cars on at some point in the future, but I think we're not there now. The businesses have gone through the hardest period in probably my lifetime, realistically, in terms of the ability to get business to them, and we will simply drive business further and further online and stop. You know, we're not supporting our local economy, and actually that's what we need to do if we want to get through this and go through the economic recovery.
I think so far no one's gone out of business that I know of anyway. They're all holding in there, but it must be quite strenuous to say the least.
I think there are some restaurants.
The one's moving, I know, into a new place. I don't.
But there is some restaurants that have gone as well across the island.
Okay,
And certainly there is a number of shops in the high street as well. And we can only speculate, but likely there will be also a contributing factor from the fact that even though the COVID period now, we're in a position where we aren't locked down, but people still can't access them easily. And we all heard tales of people cycling the prom 3 times. That used to take probably 4 or 5 minutes, I imagine, going back up and down. Now you're looking at half an hour to do that full loop and go through all the various chicanes and bizarre road setup.
We're very used to knowing how we get from A to B in the Isle of Man. If you change it, it does cause a bit of
and actually, I'm just not sure. I feel it's counterintuitive what they've done in terms of the road. The new setup at Glencrutchery Road has actually reduced the number of spaces, physical car spaces, that are there for queuing in traffic. So I'm not sure how that helps, and I'm still not convinced. And then obviously there has been some confusion now with the dip at the top of Victoria Road. Now actually I'm not fundamentally opposed to what they've tried to do there. I think it's just that it probably wasn't given enough warning. The signage wasn't.
Well, they went back pretty quickly to do some alterations.
They had to.
Always a sign that they haven't quite thought this one out. But I wouldn't like that job anyway, because you're never going to please anybody on that one.
I think it's hard, but I think all of those things led to huge delays, and the reality is that's now causing people challenge getting to work. It's causing people challenge dropping their children to nursery.
Well, they're queuing right back to Corkle's garage apparently in the mornings,
and people are struggling to get to the shop. So if you had a choice, you can pop onto Amazon and order, or you can go through all of that and try and support our local businesses. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people just don't have the time, and it's not they don't want to support local, it's that it's being made so difficult that you can't, and we need to look at how we resolve that.
Okay. Finally, just quick change of subject. You being a nurse, and we talked way back, you were on ready and standby if needed. You don't mind me saying you then had an alert yourself in the family? Mm-hmm. You had to self-isolate, didn't you?
We did. Yeah, we did our 2 weeks very early. It seems like a lifetime ago now.
Is it okay to say that your husband, it was very late in this 14-day period that it showed up? Because I mean, some people are saying we should go down to 7 days or whatever, but it was quite late, wasn't it?
It was about day 10 or 11.
Day 10, 11.
Yeah.
So that 14 days is quite important.
And we were fortunate in that we could trace it back because he had a travel history.
Right.
So because him and the other person live in different countries but both came down with it on the same day, we were confident that it had to have been at the point they were both last together, right. which gave that time delay.
Did you ever have to use your nursing skills again, though?
No, only on my husband, no.
But you were ready in case?
I was ready to go, and I think actually it's testimony to a lot of the hard work of people on the island and complying with the rules that I wasn't ever needed in the hospital. But I think it was absolutely right that what happened did. I made myself available. Obviously there was a minor change needed to the law to allow that if it had been needed, which was put through, but I just wasn't needed. And actually I think that isn't that the best outcome, that we never hit that
we never know
point.
This word about second waves and all sorts is you never know, but
and I think we do need to tread cautiously. I think we will have to be pragmatic. We're going to have to look at what's going on in the world around us, because it's not so simplistic as always just looking at us. We've also got to look at the economy. We've also got to look at what the businesses are needing.
You're going to go Guernsey?
You never know.
Holidays or Guernsey. That's it.
But I think there is that need to look at both our own economy and what we're going to have to do, and the accommodation sector we touched on. There's a huge issue for those working within the accommodation sector who've put their lives into making a product that really sells our island, and I think that's such a fabulous thing. I came here having come here on holiday and just fallen in love with the island and the people and the whole hospitality that you got. That was something that I felt, and I came here and I've made it my home, and I'm so delighted I have. And there's people now not getting that opportunity, and the hotels and the B&Bs are putting in an impossible situation.
Just to finish back to the prom, the plus part of this is that because it's all gone one way, they're going to get everything done especially on the hotel side in one go. Is that still, as I'm reading that right? Well, so this won't be more disruption next summer?
No, so I mean the Minister has made a very clear commitment that everything will be done by 31st of March, except for that final lot promenade end and the roundels, or whatever you want to call it.
Very controversial.
So my hope absolutely is that by that point we're back with parking and access and two-way. But
we'll see.
We will see, and it's so important this is kept on time, because the damage to these businesses, I just can't state it enough.